It is officially the month of June. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. It is Monday the 2nd. It's a brand new month, and it's a brand new episode coming up for you, of course, over the next hour or so right here inside the vault. I'm Bobby Trossett. She's Sarah Ellison. Thank you guys so much for being with us. What a tremendous Friday it was. It was an awesome week last week. You guys just continue your generosity. We've already got one gift, one super chat. We haven't even started the show yet. So there's just this continued level of gratitude from us to you. And we appreciate you guys so much for being along for the ride. So obviously more OTAs this week. You're going to be popping off to Switzerland, which I'm looking forward to your getaway and some much deserved time off. Mandatory mini camp will be coming up later this month. And then, of course, the dark period really begins at the end of the month, beginning of July, before training camp. So hang on tight, buckle up. We got a lot to cover and a lot to handle over the course of the next month or so. Today, we'll begin with Isaiah Likely, Sarah, and if he could potentially really be in a position now to start earning the respect I think so many of us feel like he deserves nationally. More on that in just a bit. Did Nick Wright, the infamous Nick Wright, accidentally give Lamar Jackson a compliment? We'll let you know what we think. And what might Eric DeCosta do with the newly acquired money that just hit his bank account? It's June 2nd, June 1st. The post one, June 1 designations are official, Sarah. So he's going to have some more money to play with. And obviously the roster is pretty much set. But as we know, there's going to be a couple more pieces to fill over the course of the next couple months. So it's great to see you. Happy Monday and happy day before you guys pop over across the pond.
That was hilarious. I answered or you picked up the phone when I called you for our pre-show call, and you're like, happy, what'd you say, day before, before the Switzerland trip. And I'm like, well, I'm not leaving tomorrow. I'm still with you tomorrow. Don't leave till Wednesday. So looking forward to that. Just me and my oldest daughter. It's just a mother-daughter trip this time around. And I think that's because my husband hates heights, and all we want to do is get up in those Swiss Alps and do some zip lining and all of that. So it's going to be fun. Me and how old is London now? My 12-year-old daughter. That is going to be a blast. But I'm excited to get to some football content, starting with these two tight ends, Bobby.
Yeah, because as we know, it's been a luxury in Baltimore, as we discussed last week, really in recent weeks, for Isaiah Likely to be on his rookie contract while Mark Andrews is on one of the top contracts, or at least when he signed it was one of the top contracts. And, years go on, and so often you get to a point where it's like, dang, he's pretty economical. And that's what he is at this point, even though he's still one of the highest cap numbers on this team entering 2025. But in terms of what we teased a second ago, the respect that we feel like Isaiah Likely deserves, is he getting it? Well, I think PFF is certainly giving him quite the nod, Sarah. They put together, this is that time of year, the top 10 tight ends. It was not the only positional group that was covered. But of course, Mark Andrews finds his way, as he so often does, inside the top 5. Now, he did, if you've been following, typically over the years, it's been George Kittle and Travis Kelce, Sarah, that have been above Mark Andrews. Now, according to PFF, Brock Bowers says, hey, I'm here. Okay, I'm here to stay. The rookie, or the second-year player now in Vegas, who was tremendous in his first season, even though it was a lost first season in terms of win-loss record and postseason and everything else for the Vegas Raiders. George Kittle takes over the top spot. So it's Kittle, Bowers, Trey McBride vaults himself into top 3. Mark Andrews now slides to top 4. But the big piece of the conversation that we want to focus on from a Ravens perspective is that look who sneaks his way inside the top 10, Sarah. It's Isaiah Likely, meaning according to PFF and according to John Costco, who put this together. We've covered some of his other work in recent months. The Ravens got 2 top tight ends, 2 top 10 tight ends, that is, and that's without one of them even remotely coming close to his ceiling in terms of usage and everything else that's come into Isaiah's role, right, in what's been a very jam-packed tight end room since he entered the league.
I think you nailed it when you're saying he hasn't even come close to his ceiling. That is absolutely right. And so, listen, to have a tight end 2, quote unquote, we all know that Likely can be could be a tight end 1 in plenty on plenty of teams. He could be tight end 1. To be number 9 as tight end 2 is a big deal. You're not going to see any other teams here with 2 tight ends in the top 10. First, with Mark Andrews, you talked about how much he's being paid. He's still currently the 5th highest paid in terms of cap hits among tight ends. So to have him here at number 4, that says to us in the regular season, Mark Andrews is living up to his contract, one of the highest paid Ravens overall. Obviously, the playoffs were another story, especially last year. Now you've got Isaiah Likely there. What's interesting, Bobby, is maybe this is the start. Maybe PFF will be the first national outlet. Over all of us here locally know what Isaiah Likely is capable of. But this reminds me, the first thing I thought of when I saw this list, Bobby, to see Isaiah Likely in the top 10 is I remember going back to when the Ravens signed DeAndre Hopkins. And when they signed him, FanDuel put up this graphic that said Baltimore Ravens new offense, and they show all the top weapons, some of the top weapons anyway. Got Lamar, you got Derrick Henry, they put in Hopkins, they put in Flowers, Bateman, and Andrews. And Isaiah Likely is nowhere to be found. I don't know why it's not showing it there, but I quote retweeted this tweet when it went out shortly after Hopkins was signed. And I said, let me see, what did I have here? I wrote, crazy. It's crazy how overlooked Isaiah Likely is. You know who retweeted that, Bobby?
The man himself.
The man himself, Isaiah Likely, with how often he is overlooked. So it's nice to see him crack this top 10. If he gets tight end 1 snaps, I think he could catapult even higher up on this list. Why can't he compete with Trey McBride? Why can't he compete with Brock Bowers? Why can't he compete with George Kittle? And I just want to read what they said about Isaiah Likely here in this PFF ranking. They said, with Mark Andrews struggling to return from injury at the beginning of the 2024 season, remember he had that car accident. That's still crazy. It said Likely stepped up to provide a security blanket for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens offense. As Andrews worked his way to 100%, Likely became less of a focal point, but still showcased true top-tier skills and talent at that position, earning a career-high 77.0 PFF receiving grade in 2024. I love that. Showcased true top-tier skill and talent at that position. We all know that he's capable of that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a player that, again, you just don't feel like you've seen his full capability at this point. And you've seen flashes, especially when Mark went down with his brutal ankle injury a couple of years ago, right? Like that's when the Lamar and Isaiah connection really was ignited. Mm-hmm. And from that point forward, you just kind of asked yourself, like, will there come a point that Isaiah surpasses Mark within the confines of this offense? It hasn't happened yet. But the fact that they are in this type of consideration as the top duo in the league, because you'll notice there was no other duo on this list, Sarah, top 10.
Yeah, no.
There's not one other duo. And so while it's notable that Isaiah cracks this list, and to your point, perhaps it's the beginning of universal recognition should he continue to stack like we all expect him to. Mm-hmm. The fact that the duo is being recognized and not just Isaiah, I think just speaks to, you said it within the last week or so, the embarrassment of riches that they have, not only at that position, but at the pass catcher position and really throughout this entire offense as a whole.
Yeah, definitely the skill position for sure. And so I'm legitimately excited for the regular season with these two guys together. I think it's very clear that Lamar has incredible chemistry with both of these guys. I think that Zay Flowers is up there in terms of chemistry. We'll see what Isaiah Likely does. I think Bateman and Lamar were a work in progress and certainly took huge strides last year. And then, you know what? We know what the downfall is for Mark Andrews. People talk about, the dip in Lamar Jackson's playoff performances, which is a fair critique. And so when you look at the playoff comparisons between this two, these two tight ends, it's really not even comparable for sure in the season. I mean, Mark Andrews very likely is going to be in the Ring of Honor. He's been extremely productive throughout his entire career. He's an all-pro. He's a Pro Bowler. But in the playoffs, his performances have dipped. Over 8 playoff games, he's had 29 catches for 315 yards, 0 touchdowns, and a drop and a fumble. Isaiah Likely, in 5 games, so 3 fewer games than Mark, has had 11 catches for 176 yards, and that just got a thing put over it. I can't read the rest of those because somehow I had a look at that little ad came up over it or something like that. So let me
During
look
your
this up.
screenshot, yeah.
During my screenshot. But he obviously has several touchdowns, I think at least 2. Isaiah Likely playoff stats.
I got you. 11 catches for 176 yards, 2 touchdowns in 5 games throughout the postseason.
Right. And one of those touchdowns was in a big moment against the Bills, where the Ravens needed to go down and get that touchdown and a 2-point conversion. And that was where Lamar was running around in the snow, trying to scramble for extra time, finds Isaiah Likely for a 20+ yard touchdown. And so, listen, there's not a downside of having these two tight ends if the coaches are able to use them appropriately. And I hope they call their numbers at the right time.
Not the only list, the positional ranking that was out there from PFF. Another one, top 10 linebackers across the league and bounce back candidates within the AFC North. They don't necessarily need to be linebackers. So let's go through the top 10 list first. Fred Warner, again, universally recognized for quite a while now as the league's top linebacker. He is number 1 in San Francisco. Typically, Sarah, in recent years, especially since he got to Baltimore and was traded in season, Roquan's been recognized as number 2. Not according to PFF at this point in the offseason. Zach Bond in Philadelphia takes over the 2nd overall slot, according to Mason Cameron of PFF. Bobby Wagner, man, he is still going. Hard to believe. He is still playing football. He is in Washington with the Commanders. Last year was his first season with them. He had a tremendous year, and obviously the Commanders had a tremendous, almost like peaked too soon or peaked early type of thing. Like they were not supposed to, I'm air quoting that, not supposed to be there, but they were there, and they made a run in the NFC postseason. Here comes Roquan at 4. So he's dropped a couple slots, at least according to PFF's Mason Cameron. Dre Greenlaw comes in and rounds out the top 5. Where Roquan and a former Raven, Sarah, I'm being reminded by this graphic on the left-hand side of the screen, where the bounce back candidates are mentioned is where Roquan finds himself as well, including his former running mate, Patrick Queen, and a former member of his defense, Geno Stone. So 2 former Ravens and a current Raven make Dalton, let me make sure I get this right, Dalton Wasserman's, also of PFF, bounce back candidates list when he's looking at the AFC North. I would think that Roquan, Sarah, was knocked for the first quarter of his season last year. We all remember those struggles, but he had the last laugh. He ended up maybe not in the divisional round, but he ended up being named All-Pro. So it's kind of a complicated story when you look back at trying to describe and analyze and summarize Roquan's 2024 season, but he's still viewed as somebody that dropped in terms of these rankings.
Yeah, and I think it's fair that he dropped. I just don't know that he should be beneath Bobby Wagner. I feel like that's a little too far of a drop. Certainly would put Fred Warner, Zach Bond up over there. Here's what they have to say. And you talked about how it was like a complicated situation. If you read the write-up on Roquan Smith, I think that they are taking that all into consideration. So here's what they had to say about Bobby Wagner, first of all, of why they put him at number 3. They said Wagner's entering his age 35 season, but has shown no signs of slowing down. While his PFF coverage grade has dipped over the past 2 seasons, Wagner remains an elite run defender, tackler, and blitzer. He led all qualifying linebackers in PFF run defense and pass rush grades in 2024, and his 91.2 figure against the run marks his 3rd straight season surpassing the 91 .0 threshold. So it sounds like his run defense is certainly helping him out, as they were saying that, his coverage grades aren't as good. Here's what they have to say about Roquan. They said on the surface, Smith's 66.8 PFF overall grade in 2024 would seem like a drop that would push him further down the list, but the personnel around him was a contributing factor. I agree with them there. After Kyle Hamilton's move back to safety in week 11, Smith returned to form. His 81.8 PFF coverage grade from that point on ranked fourth best at the position, much closer to his usual level of play. A full season with that structure will have Smith right back in the elite conversation. Bobby, I do think he's primed for a comeback season, as they have him here, because of what they just listed, because of what you talked about and the complications. A first-year defensive coordinator, not only problems in the safety position, which they talked about, that he started to play better as Kyle Hamilton moved back, and obviously our Darius Washington was back there, but they also made a change in week 13 as to who his weak side companion would be, benching Trenton Simpson and bringing in Malik Hamilton and
Malik Harrison and Chris Board.
And so you saw him already having that comeback in the second part of the season. He returned to OTAs looking like he's in shape, looking like he's ready to go. So, if I were to, I'm just trying to think of all the different Ravens. If there was somebody who you could put money on in having a comeback season, I would think it'd be Roquan Smith.
Yeah, not a betting man, but I probably feel comfortable in that arena as well. I tend to side with you that Bobby Wagner, age 35 season incoming, feels a little disrespectful to have him above Roquan at this point. Mm-hmm. But I also do think it's fair to list Roquan as a bounce back candidate because of the stature and the resume prior to last year, right? You can be listed as a bounce back candidate after an all-pro season when you're at the top and the upper echelon of your position for years running entering last year. So if anything, it's actually a compliment, and it's also sort of a reminder of where Roquan was at the position, almost universally recognized as top two. And you can go back and forth. I can remember you doing an exercise within the last year or so, essentially comparing Fred Warner to Roquan Smith. I don't know how long ago that was. It was
the last year that Queen was here. So it was like the year before last. Yeah.
There you go. So this is when you do the amount of content that we do, some things dive right into your brain in random places and times. And that just shot into my brain a second ago. But anyway, if anything, it's almost acknowledging the high level of play that Roquan's been able to sustain for years running now. And the hope is that obviously he can take a step back into that elite upper echelon category, assuming that they're going to have it figured out and have some stability alongside him. You just mentioned, his companion last year. We all know what happened with Trenton Simpson, and you've already mentioned that. You want to get to the pair of edge rushers, or do you have anything else to say on the linebackers?
No, I'm good to move on.
Okay. So next, again, positional breakdowns. This time you see it's either duos or trios when it comes to teammates on edge defender rankings. This is according to PFF's Ryan Smith. And sneaking their way into the top 6, Sarah, is two players on the Ravens that are at different points in their career. You would think one is on the back 9 in KVN, and the other, is he just potentially ascending? We're going to ask ourselves a similar question in just a second here. Odafe Oweh and Kyle Van Noy, Sarah, join a list of some pretty elite players, duos, trios around the league.
Hey, listen, it's never a bad thing when you have two outside linebackers putting up double-digit sacks. How much that was systematic, how much that was taking advantage of maybe a Justin Madubuike getting double teams, all that, I don't know. But PFF obviously does grades based off of how they actually, perform, how they're beating the person in front of them, the blockers in front of them. So nice to see them as a duo in the top 6. And yet, just like with almost all players, whether it's Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, or Odafe Oweh, it's all these fantastic players not stepping up in the playoffs. And I bring that up because, remember, last week, Odafe Oweh revealed how he put on 20 pounds over the offseason, mostly of muscle, I assume. Said he's just eating all that broccoli and chicken and eating nonstop. And he talked about how unhappy he was with his performance in that Buffalo Bills game. Bobby, just as a reminder, the Ravens in general, not just Oweh, but Oweh's certainly one of the top outside linebackers that you're leaning on once you hit the playoffs. The Ravens had one shared sack on Josh Allen in that divisional round loss. One shared sack. This defense, who had been ranked number 1 throughout the year on rush defense, this defense gave up 147 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing. Again, we've talked just the whole team not playing like themselves once it comes to some of these playoff performances. Oweh himself, with no sacks, had just one tackle. One tackle in that game. He had a first quarter tackle against Ty Johnson after he got down the field for 8 yards. And so Oweh, very unhappy, putting on that weight, hoping that that'll help him have more power and do more in these big games. Obviously, he also said that he admitted that the contract situation's in the back of his mind, right? How could it not be? I don't fault anybody for that. But in the forefront, he feels like if he plays well, the contract will take care of itself. Now, Bobby, here's what's interesting. We have seen this story before time and time again, where the Ravens have an outside linebacker, or maybe even an inside linebacker in the case of Patrick Queen, where for the first 3, maybe 4 years, they're pretty quiet. And then all of a sudden, here comes a contract year, and they explode. And Jeff Zrebeck pointed that out in his story this morning on The Athletic. So I decided to go get all of these stats right here. All of these times where the Ravens have a pass rusher who are quiet and then they suddenly perform well. Let's go back to Paul Kruger. Okay. He's drafted in the second round. His first year, 0 sacks. Second year, 1 sack. Third year, 5.5, getting better. Then here comes a contract year. 9 sacks, turns that into a 5-year, $4.5 million contract from the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, not in Baltimore.
Not in Baltimore. Okay. Let's go to Pernell McPhee. Ravens got him. I believe he was like a 5th rounder, something like that. Certainly a late rounder. First year actually does pretty well for like a rookie that was late round. So he had 6 sacks. Goes back to 1.5 his second year. 2 sacks his third year. Oh, contract year. What do you know? That was the contract year. He put up the most sacks he's ever had at 7.5. Turn that into a 5-year, $40 million contract. How about Matt Judon? Another 5th rounder. That plays pretty decently well. 4 sacks rookie year, 8 and then 7. Then his contract year was 2009, Bobby. Has 9.5 sacks, and the Ravens used the franchise tag on him. After they use the franchise tag, turns that into 4 years, $56 million. And then the final example I'll use is Zardarius Smith. 5.5 sacks as a rookie, 1 second year, 3.5 his third year. Contract year, 8.5, more than doubles himself. Turns that into a 4-year, $66.5 million contract. Goes on to Green Bay and continues to put up double-digit sacks. This is a story we've seen before. And then that is why Jeff Zrebeck then says in his article, he says, it appears the Ravens are open to extending Oweh, but there's been no indication the two sides have created any traction toward a long-term deal. Okay, they say that they actually protected themselves, the Ravens, by drafting Mike Green out of Marshall. Okay, so here's the question that Jeff Zrebeck poses that I'm going to have you answer. Okay, he says, after being one of only 17 players in the NFL last year to finish with double-digit sacks, will Oweh continue to evolve as a pass rusher and build off the 2024 breakout? Or do the Ravens believe last season represented Oweh's ceiling or pretty close to it as a player? So that's my question to you. Do you think in 2025 he'll even outdo himself again, hitting new heights? Or do you feel like last year was pretty much his ceiling and then he will maybe repeat that ceiling in 2025?
I'm going to go with ascending. I will.
Okay.
I'm going to stand on his ascension. That's my prediction. And I believe him when he says that you alluded to earlier on, right, that he was not pleased nor even remotely satisfied with the final piece that he put on tape, with the final opportunity that he put on tape last year. The direct quote from last week's OTA session that we've already covered, but it warrants repeat. We didn't have the outing. At least I didn't have the outing I wanted. So I thought a lot of that had to do with my weight and being able to be stout in certain positions. As soon as the season was done, like you said, went to Miami, started eating, as he said, nasty stuff. Or what did he say?
He said it was nasty, so I thought he was eating junk food. But then he's like, "Yeah, chicken and broccoli."
Right. It's like, okay, which one is it? Right. It's bland. He started eating bland, but he was able to put on weight. And you could tell that this is a player that understands and has a sense of urgency with where he's at in his career and where the Ravens are right now in this window. I'll also lean on the trajectory. Had a pretty solid rookie season after coming out of Penn State, and you thought to yourself, well, he's not exactly a sack master, right? He had 5 his rookie year, regressed in 2022. He was banged up a little bit, had 3. Then the AFC Championship year, had 5. A lot of pressures, though, a lot of quarterback hits. And then in 2024, obviously, it just, all you know what broke loose. Double digits. Guy had over 20 quarterback hits. He was a problem. And he probably could have had 12 or 13 sacks when it was all said and done had he not been so close. What do they call him again? Oweh, or I don't know. They
one away or
phrase with
yes, yeah. There's something catchy there that we're missing.
Yes, there is, and it's like
Odafe,
so close.
Odafe, almost Odafe.
It's Oweh almost, or something like that. It's one of his Twitter strays that he catches so often. But yeah, I'm gonna lean on the trajectory of his few years, of his first 4 years. Yeah. I'm gonna lean on the fact that he has Chuck Smith at his disposal, and I'm gonna lean on his mindset and what he's proven already this offseason in terms of the weight gain and how he's shared his mindset with the media just last week. That if I'm a betting man, I think Odafe is going to be in that double-digit category and ultimately surpass himself statistically from his 2024 self.
Okay, so you think he's going to continue to ascend? I think I'm closer to he's at around his ceiling. Now I do think, especially with putting on weight, I think he could maybe do more in the run game. So I don't think, so I think he can get better there. And so I'm not saying he can't improve at all, but yeah, I see some improvement in the run game. But I see him sticking around this double digits of what was it? He had 10 last year, was it?
Correct.
I mean, in a contract year, I can see him like getting 12 or 13. But I don't see him becoming, right, Myles Garrett. I don't see him becoming, some of the elite guys that are out there. I don't see him being who they were at some of their primes. TJ Watt, Max Crosby. Like, I don't think he's going to suddenly turn into them. But yeah, I could see him following a Matt Judon, Zadarius Smith kind of trajectory, because I think that's where he's already at, by putting up 10. So can he do that consistently going forward? I think so. I think he's kind of around there. But, look at Matt Judon. He had 12 and a half, 15 and a half. That was a sweet year for him in 2022. 13 and a half after Zadarius Smith left. He had 13 and a half, 12 and a half. So I could see him getting up to that level, but that's who I kind of think he is. Maybe as Zadarius Smith, Matt Judon, and not necessarily a Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Max Crosby kind of level. I think he's got a little bit more room, but we're essentially at the ceiling. That's where I think we're at.
Now, in fairness, the trio that you mentioned are all future Hall of Famers.
What?
Absolutely.
Judon is a future Hall of Famer?
No,
you're talking about the other guys. Okay, my bad. Yes.
The trio of Crosby, Watt, and Garrett are all future Hall of Famers.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to make clear. I think he's where he's at. He's in the category of these guys on the screen. Matt Judon and Zadarius Smith. Those guys, you're right. The guys I mentioned are next level Hall of Famers. I don't see that ceiling there. He's there. He's at a ceiling of a solid guy who's going to get a nice contract, whether it's from the Ravens or somebody else. My bet is it'll be somebody else. But that kind of depends on Mike Green.
I see him going elsewhere as well, and I think he's going to earn it. and he'll probably fall on this list, which I think is what you're getting at.
Yeah.
But where I'm losing you here, though, is the question that you asked me, right? Is do you think that he's going to surpass last year, or in a sense, has he reached his ceiling?
Yeah.
And my answer to you was based on last year's numbers, based on his contract, based on everything I outlined with Chuck Smith's tutelage, right? What he's done to his body already this year, I think he will one-up his 2024 self. That was my answer. Do I think
the question's right here on the screen, right? Do you think it's represented Oweh's ceiling or pretty close to it? Right? Okay. So to me, yes, I think he can get a little bit better, but I think we're essentially here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why I said I think he could get like to 12.5 in a contract year, sacks.
Okay. Yeah.
But then the next level are the guys I mentioned.
Yes. They are on a different stratosphere.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, we're not too far off here.
And by the way, if he puts up 12.5 sacks, it's going to be sweet. The real question is, just like with everybody else on this roster, is can you do it in the playoffs against the best?
Yeah. And the answer was a hard no. And it wasn't just him last year. All right. He's looking to his left and right. He can say that now he didn't. He said we, and then he went back to kind of clarify in that press conference, like I at least. So, but he can look to his left and right coming off that divisional round championship or divisional round game in January last year and say, I'm not the only one that deserved a little bit of blame in terms of a lackluster defensive performance with way too much ground given up to Buffalo on the ground, like you mentioned a few minutes ago.
Absolutely. And by the way, whether or not, kind of answering a little bit more of Jeff's question is like, will they sign him? And they have an insurance policy in Mike Green. This clip had resurfaced over the weekend about Mike Green from NBC Sports and how good he could be. These guys, again, before the draft, saying Mike Green is the guy right after Abdul Carter, or should be in the conversation.
That's a great point, especially with just how sure he is and how prepared he is for the NFL. Connor, you mentioned this off the top, though. Maybe there's not as big of a gap between him and Mike Green as the way that people talk about the edge rushers in this group. Talk about that.
You look at the advanced stats here, just what they were able to do on the edge this year. Obviously, the sacks are what they are, but the total pressures, 68 for Carter, 65 for Green. Pass rush win rate, really just how much you're taking advantage of your opportunities. Mike Green, 22% compared to Carter's 22.9. Green's a great athlete. He's got high-end agility. You see the ghost move. He uses that rocker step. But tackles on an island are like, I don't know what to do with this guy. They're not supposed to move like this. This is Ohio State. Look at the spin move. Yep. So, and then the closing speed. Joshua mentioned that with Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter is on a totally different planet for closing speed, but Mike Green's got it where that's why you don't fall into 17 sacks. You got to be able to finish plays.
I'm there with you. And watching him, I think there's a desperation in his game. Like, he is desperate to win off the line of scrimmage and get to quarterbacks. You see it more than anybody else. And so I would start right there with him. You mentioned the athleticism, which I think is important. There is a size that you give up with him as well, and I know that's been a concern for some people, but he does have moves, unlike some of the other guys in this class, a little bit more polished when it comes to that. Super exciting for me to watch him. The only thing is I think he does get out of position because of that desperation that he has to his game.
Yeah, it felt like they kind of let him pin his ears back and run wild. And at the NFL, you're going to have to be a little careful. You're going to have some gap integrity as well. But I think he's also got really strong hands for his size. And I think that's some of the wrestling background with him. So Mike Green, probably a top 10 pick.
He showed that strength, too, at the Senior Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the questions that people ask is, can you do it? And he went right there. And I think it was probably the only thing that he said, I'm going to do this week.
He ran right through Josh Connerly, who could be a first-round pick. And then he said, okay, I'll pack up my bags because I kind of did everything I had to do.
It's interesting you said going to be a top 10 pick.
A top 10 pick that the Ravens got at 56. I'm excited to see these three together. Mike Green, Odafe Oweh, and Kyle Van Noy. And anybody else that wants to jump in there too, like Tavius Robinson.
Yeah, exactly. Who could be viewed as last year. Everybody was kind of saying Odafe is prime for the breakout, right? It wasn't a surprise. I remember this time last year, everybody was kind of pinpointing Odafe as the breakout candidate. I could totally see Tavius serving that role this upcoming season. He's shown those flashes, and wouldn't that be something? And that would lead to a scenario where it's like, okay, now you can afford for a slow start or room for development for a Mike Green that obviously is coming in as a newfound rookie. Shall we get to some super chats and whatnot?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it. They started coming in, Sarah, prior to our show. And Douglas H. Brown Sr., who's a channel member, got us started right at the top. And he said, I wanted to get in on the gift giving, although I can't afford to keep up with PHP. I'm not sure any of us can, Douglas, because PHP sets the tone, man. And it was a tremendous display of generosity on Friday for those of you who missed it. I think we gave out over 50 or 60 new channel Voltrons.
It was crazy.
We were up in that, and we began the day, by the way, at 461. So 500, as Holly was saying in the live chat, 500 is definitely in play on this Monday, and Douglas H. Brown Sr. gets us to 462 on top of that super chat, giving out a membership. Thank you, guys. Thanks for getting us started.
Well, I just want to say to Douglas, where he's saying he can't keep up with PHP, I just hope everybody knows that, like, we're grateful for any support, whether it's like a gift or a super chat or just a regular chat or just watching the show, subscribing, liking the video, any of that. Appreciate all the support helps one way or another. So,
and I hope I made that abundantly clear in some of my, in the midst of some humorous greed on Friday when we're yelling about 400 and I'm yelling about 500 and 450 and about. It's all obviously the umbrella over all of that is what you just said. So definitely want to echo those sentiments. We have been we have been overwhelmed since this feature was implemented back in March. It's just been, it's been so much fun for you guys too. And it just makes me think, I know this isn't a super chat, Sarah, but I feel like it's just such a great thing to add in that Ivory hasn't caught us live in a long time, but he was just gifted a membership 20 days ago. So there you have it. Like some folks that aren't even live as they're getting gifts. Like I didn't even think about that. And Ivory reminded me that you may not be a daily live viewer of ours. Maybe you're like Ivory who goes and watches the replays, but you might still be on the receiving end of these gifts. So it's a nice little wrinkle and something that we're continuing to learn about. Thank you guys so much. Dre Dog Sarah gets us back to the super chats.
Dre Dog says rankings are one thing on the field. Or rankings are one thing, on the field is different. It's time for Likely to shine. I just know Harbs will go seniority like he always does. Ugh. Hashtag Sarah Sundays.
And he wasn't done there. Dre with another one. Adafe will get 13 to 15 sacks and price his way out of Baltimore. We have a history of not paying pass rushers, which you just eloquently displayed on that graphic. Mike Green and company will be the future. And he goes on to give an honorable mention to Jadeveon Clowney, who had a tremendous 2023 in Baltimore, went and got the bag from Carolina, and now he remains unsigned, as we've discussed in recent weeks. Ravens 54th man checking in.
He said Wagner should be cut for getting trucked by Baker.
Dreams says it would be the most Ravens thing to do to win a Super Bowl when everyone is in a contract year, just like the 2012 team. Kruger, McPhee, Ellerbe, Kerry Williams going back.
They lost a lot after that Super Bowl. A lot. That 2013 year that offseason was rough. And then trading away Anquan Bolden. Oh, woof.
Yep. Park Heights Prophet with an orange banner. He gets the week started just as he ended it last week.
His ears were ringing, probably because he was listening, actually hearing what we were talking about with his generosity. So here he is, PHP checking in. He says, happy OTA Monday. Just a thought. If you can remember the worst day of your life, you have survived it. In a cold world, let love win. I know what the Ravens slogan is, but today, somebody cares. Keep working. Oh
man,
I wonder what's going on in PHP's life to have that kind of uplifting thought.
The messages just continue. The generosity is one thing, but then when he starts to throw in like meaningful messages on top of it, whether it's Bible verses and play on words or just messages like that of uplifting spirits, it's just, man, he gives you a little bit of everything. We appreciate you, PHP. And he wasn't done there. From orange to yellow, another super chat. He writes, just sending this to match with Douglas. No keeping up. All love for the great Vault content we get for free. Voltrons are one family. My gift is your gift. Big salute, man. That's awesome. He matches Douglas's donation to kickstart the show, and also make sure to say this is it's not a competition. You're a good dude, PHP. We look forward to meeting you at some point. Dre Dog's going to track you down, by the way.
That's right.
All right.
Dre Dog said I got this last week.
Oh, he's on top of it for sure. Over 1,600 concurrents on this Monday and counting. We appreciate you guys so very much for being with us as we kickstart the month of June. Please like the video, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification bell. I pass the baton to you. What do you got for us next?
Oh, yeah, it is me. Okay. We're going to be talking about Nick Wright and some accidental, maybe, compliments to Lamar Jackson, because you know that he's been termed a hater in the past. They have their background going back and forth. Remember, Lamar Jackson replied to him, I think, once and put up a picture of, I don't even remember what that picture was, but it wasn't flattering. It was not flattering. He posted a picture comparing Nick Wright to what?
I don't know, but the graphic had a massive nose. That was my big takeaway.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. Okay. Well, Nick Wright, over the last, these are two audio clips I'm going to bring in from two different videos of what they were reacting to. Okay. Now, hold on. I want to do this one first. First, they're reacting to Judy Batista, where she put together a list of the most vulnerable division champions. She listed the Ravens as number 2. Okay. She says Ravens have won the AFC North 2 seasons in a row, have a QB who could be the league MVP every year, and have no apparent roster holes. Steelers and Bengals are in the division, and they could threaten the Ravens if A, Rodgers decides to sign with Pittsburgh, and B, Burrow is in one piece, and Cincinnati can finally avoid a slow start. So, listen, I don't want to down talk the competition. The AFC North, we've shown the numbers. The AFC North was the toughest division and has been over, I think, the last decade, something crazy like that. And so you can't take for granted divisional crowns. The Ravens have never won it 3 times in a row. So I do not want to downplay it, but I also don't know that they're the second most vulnerable. Anyway, Nick feels that Judy putting the Ravens at number 2 is, in his words, disrespectful.
Do you think this is disrespectful to the Ravens that they are ranked as the second most vulnerable division champ?
So they
got a tough schedule.
This is going to be confusing for the audience because I actually think this is very disrespectful to Baltimore because it is putting far too much faith in the Bengals. The Browns are a cross-off, and to me, as far as winning 12 games, the Steelers are a cross-off.
Yeah, not winning 12
And
games.
so this is, to me, my questions about Baltimore are well established, but they are all playoff related. Baltimore is a surefire, excellent regular season team at the very least. Mm-hmm. So to say that Baltimore is threatened more by Cincinnati than Philadelphia is by Washington, I think is wrong. Listen, Detroit is, I understand why they're the most vulnerable because all the teams potentially being good, so they're a separate category. So it's just the teams beneath Baltimore on it. I think while I am very high on the Rams and not as high on the Niners, I think you make a very strong argument that the Rams are more in jeopardy than Baltimore because of the Niners. I think, man on island, I get it. Houston's in jeopardy in their division because of the upgrades that Jacksonville has made in the offseason. But by the way.
Okay, so he named 3 or 4 teams he think is more vulnerable than the Ravens in the AFC North. The Lions were number 1 on the list. He agreed with that. He felt like the Rams are vulnerable. Maybe the 49ers, because their easy schedule can do something. They just, I don't know, the Cardinals, the Seahawks. He felt like, I don't know, I know the Eagles are the Super Bowl champs, but the Commanders are on their way up. I don't know about the Cowboys, but there's Commanders over there. The Chiefs, I don't know that anybody, Chargers or Broncos. I don't think so. Texans, maybe vulnerable to the Colts, Jags, maybe. Okay, Bills are not vulnerable. Stinking Bills. They're a division. Come on now. They're enjoying what the Patriots enjoyed for so many years. Not that the Patriots weren't good and not that the Bills weren't good, but it's nice to have that cakewalk of a division. So back to this, Bobby. So he's saying this is disrespectful. No way are the Ravens the second most vulnerable. Okay, now watch. I'll get the next clip in a second to show how he's really complimenting in Lamar just a second, but let's talk about this real quick. Ravens, second most vulnerable, or is that crazy talk?
I just think this is hysterical because you're right. Nick's giving him a compliment and like telling Judy in essentially this take to slow your roll and calling it disrespectful. But I don't think Judy's that wrong because the numbers that you mentioned, and we talk about it every single year, the AFC North is a juggernaut.
Yeah.
And while Cleveland may be Cleveland this upcoming year, well, guess what Cleveland did when they were Clevelanding last year? They found a way to split the season series in the regular season with the Ravens. So I actually don't think it's that far-fetched because it's just a compliment to the division. It's not as much about the Ravens as it is the strength of the division. That's how I feel about this. That's the first thing that popped up in my mind.
Right, because when you look at the Chiefs and Bills, they don't even really have competition. I mean, maybe the Chargers or Broncos will get there, but not the Texans. Like they're competing with the Colts, Jaguars, and Titans. So just because of the competition, for sure in the AFC, the Ravens might be the most vulnerable. And then maybe you can make the case for some of these NFC teams, like I talked about. Okay, so first of all, Nick Wright in this clip is giving a compliment to the Ravens as a whole. Like, oh, it's disrespectful you'd even think that they could be knocked off as division champs. Okay, so he's giving a compliment to the Ravens overall. But then here's where his accidental compliment might come to Lamar Jackson, because they then started debating NFL.com's most complete team list. And the Ravens are ranked number 2 behind the Eagles. You and I have said that we feel like as a roster, they're probably top 5. I don't study the other rosters the way these national guys do, okay? So he thinks it's crazy that Ravens are number 2 in terms of the most complete teams. So you're crazy for saying they're vulnerable, but you're also crazy for saying they're a complete roster. So who's doing the heavy lifting here? Nick?
Most complete teams for the 2025 season on NFL.com.
Fire about
the list has the Eagles at 1 since they won the Super Bowl.
That's fine.
Then it's the Ravens, Lions, Chiefs at 4, Bills, Vikings, Bucks, Packers, 49ers, who might not even make the playoffs, and then the Broncos. Any issue with Baltimore being at number 2?
I think maybe Drew will even agree with me, even though he's wearing his Ravens tie, probably his Ravens Jordans, and is a Ravens guy. This is outrageous. They have an awesome quarterback.
Yeah.
And, albeit old, awesome running back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they're awesome or even very good anywhere else. Their kicker's gone. Their wide receiver room is in flux for the 10th straight year. They last year had, despite Ravens culture, the number 31 pass defense in the league. What about Baltimore screams complete? They scream super, led by 2 super duper stars at quarterback and running back. Not like this super well-rounded, complete, hard to find the whole team. That's why I'd be better off with a list that said they're the second most likely to win the Super Bowl. Because this is the year Lamar breaks through, then they're the second most complete team in the league. That's crazy.
Well, look.
Okay, Bobby, I wish MVP voters felt the same way as Nick Wright did there. He clearly says it's dumb to say they're vulnerable, but he also says they're not a complete team, essentially saying Lamar and Derek are carrying everything. So that's some pretty big, you don't have a great roster, but you're for sure going to win the division. Hello, Lamar Jackson. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, do you think their wide receiver room's in flux?
Yeah, that was weird.
Do you?
I think it's because he's thinking of DeAndre Hopkins.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. And maybe he's having a little bit of a recency bias because of who was unavailable for them when it all mattered and everything was on the line in January, which was both of their top 2 receivers unavailable down the stretch in Buffalo. Zay wasn't even available to begin with, and Bate obviously got injured in game. So other than that, I can't imagine why. I don't think it's fair to refer to this room as in flux. If one of those players were to have been injured seriously, luckily they weren't, and that would have been lingering into this season, I could see why maybe the room would be in flux, because you're taking a gamble on a 32, 33-year-old player in DeAndre Hopkins to be your wide receiver too, but you're not.
And just before you give the rest of your analysis, they talked about that more. Chris Broussard came back and he was like, I feel like the Ravens wide receiver room is as good as the Chiefs. So they debated that because Rashid Rice, we don't know if he's going to be coming back. And then they were looking at the rest of it and it was kind of like, okay, but I'll let you finish. Then I have another thought on that, but I just wanted to let you know they debated more about the wide receiver room.
Okay, good. Because I got one more thought too, because he didn't even mention the tight ends. I mean, what a
exactly.
What a total. Come on. What are we doing here? That's like irresponsible to not mention the tight ends. And so if he thinks that the wide receiver room is in flux, he doesn't even mention the tight ends and says that Derek and Lamar are carrying it. There's no question that they're a huge percentage of what they, from an output standpoint of what this offense is through 1 year, that duo in existence. But it's actually ludicrous to not mention the other key, not just role players, but key playmakers for them that had big impacts last year. That's Mark, that's Isaiah, that is Bate and Zay as the complementary duo that they became at wide receiver, and you can even throw Justice Hill in as an honorable mention as well. And we haven't even talked about what they got offensively speaking from the line and how sturdy that was, given how new it was and how youthful it was. So I have a hard time following some of the analysis there. I do think that they are below Philadelphia because of some of the points that he brought up, right? We don't know what the pass defense will look like. Do we think that maybe it'll have a shot in the arm given the way they ended last year and Malachi Starks? Sure, you'd hope so, but we don't know. And then there's obviously some questions, not just at the kicker position, but really special teams wide. I think from a coverage unit standpoint, they've left a lot to be desired there in terms of just how high standards John Harbaugh has had that group living in for recent years. So other than that, I do think that they are absolutely top five, and I would push them more towards like the top three category.
Yeah, I think when he was like, where else are they awesome? I first for sure put tight end. It was my answer. Where else are they awesome? Second half of the season, safety. I mean, you have an all-pro in Kyle Hamilton on his rookie contract. Now there is a question though, what will Malachi Starks be? So you can't turn that awesome. The whole room is awesome, but Kyle Hamilton's awesome. What else were they awesome? Rush defense. I'm pretty sure they finished number 1 in the league. And so that's where they're awesome. What's that?
Top 2 collectively in sacks.
Top 2 collectively in sacks. And you're about to add Mike Green. Now, do I call the pass rush group awesome? No. Solid for sure. Does it help with like this more complete team? Yes. And so listen, there's definitely other places where they are awesome that he's overlooking, to your point. That being said, again, this complete roster in the regular season, everybody needs to come in the postseason. And, Nick Wright is traditionally hard on the Ravens in the postseason. So, and rightfully so. We talked about Odafe Oweh, what he did. We talked about the lack of turnovers from the defense. We've talked about Mark Andrews. We've talked about Lamar Jackson's turnovers. Not at all. We talked about the errant snap before from that led to the fumble, even though Lamar had it handled. He could have just jumped on it, but from Tyler Linderbaum, the errant snap. And so it's like, this is a pretty complete team. I'm happy to put it in the top 5, maybe more if I studied it more. It's just get it together in the postseason. But overall, the takeaway from these 2 clips to me, Bobby, was Nick Wright thinks that it's disrespectful to say that the Ravens won't win the division, and it's not even close to a complete team, and it's because they have an awesome quarterback. And as good as the team is, to me, the biggest reason why you say that the Ravens have a complete roster is because of Lamar Jackson. You have to start at the quarterback position. He's as Jody Batista said, in the running for MVP every year that he's healthy. And so one of the biggest reasons that they have a complete quote unquote roster is because of that quarterback position. He skyrockets the rest of the roster.
In other words, multiple compliments from Nick Wright, a rare moment in the offseason, both for the team as a whole and Lamar Jackson, correct? Is that the best way to summarize? That's the Spark Notes, is that Nick Wright is divvying out, just like PHP does on a weekly basis. He is divvying out Ravens compliments.
There we go. It's a strange day. It happens in June.
Correct.
We'll check back again during the regular season when they're more of a threat to his Chiefs. If they can be that threat. Week 4. Let's go.
Kobe Bryant is what I should say with spelling purposes here, just for our audio only audience, that is Cobee, was the undrafted corner who ended up signing with the Atlanta Falcons, Sarah. He, on his Snapchat, as you see here, posted a photo of a meme. We've seen this one before. James Harden's face and Lamar Jackson's body, meaning with the number 8 and a Ravens jersey. This one blew up, as you would imagine. Everybody wanted a piece of the pie here. I should say that while I couldn't find it over the weekend, I did see in some way or another a screenshot of Kobe clarifying that he wasn't taking a shot at Lamar with this screenshot on his Snapchat. He's a huge Lamar Jackson fan. But oddly enough, maybe even conveniently enough, where did it end up? I couldn't find it. I searched far and wide for this. So take it for whatever it's worth that Kobe has issued a clarification. But this one, Sarah, in the meantime, you know it garnered a ton of traffic online.
Listen, I am very curious as to if you are correct and that you really did see him saying, I didn't mean any disrespect to Lamar. Like, what are you doing then? What are you doing? What does it signify to put Harden's face on Lamar Jackson's body? Like, that makes no sense to me. None. Which just makes this even more bizarre, because it's bizarre in the first place that an undrafted rookie out in Atlanta who played in Kansas, who I don't think they have any sort of background, Kobe and Lamar. Like, why? Like why did you, I don't get it. I don't get it. Was it just like you saw the photo and you decided to share it? And I just don't get it. Like, it's so unnecessary. So whatever. The whole thing is bizarre. Him doing it in the first place, and then this potential clarification that you're talking about.
And I got nothing for you, by the way, to answer your hypothetical. I got no clue what he's trying to do.
Like, if you're not taking a shot, what are you doing?
It would have been nice for him to clarify in this tweet that I think I saw, that I'm pretty confident that I saw, whether it was a tweet or a screenshot of an Instagram post or a Snapchat clarification or whatever it was. But again, I couldn't find the darn thing. Has anybody else seen it? Paging the audience, paging the Voltrons. Has anybody else seen on their timelines within the last 48 hours Kobe Bryant's clarification to this meme? Let me know.
Yeah, it's so odd. And obviously, the Ravens, including Lamar Jackson, is worthy of some critique. I don't know about these screenshots from other undrafted rookies. It's so strange. Like, make a team first, But just a reminder, at Lamar Jackson's ascending play in the playoffs, as we talked about last week, and his first 4 games. So he's had 8 total playoff games. His first half, he went 1-3, second half, 2-2. His first half, he was a 68.3 passer rating. His second half of playoff games, 105.8. That's a massive jump. Completion percentage going from 55.9 to 66.7. Passing yards, that's the only dip here, is 900 to 853. Touchdowns go up from 3 to 7. Interceptions go down 5 to 2. Lamar is ascending in the playoffs. That is what's happening. But few people are noticing.
Book it. The more you can use that graphic, the better.
Bring it. I'll bring it in as often as I bring in the way too long, that graphic that took me way too long to make, with the fire in the background and his stats from last year.
You already know it.
As often as possible, because it takes a long time to go get this stuff.
People appreciate that one too. Every time you bring it in, they love it because it's great graphically. It's very pleasing to look at. Okay, let's get back to some super chats and comments, Sarah, before we pop off with quick hits.
Yep. I
will tell you too, I don't know what your plans are, but I do have one more thing for us today. And those of you who used to watch ESPN years and years and years ago, I think you'll appreciate it, because we'll be celebrating the life of John Brankus, who used to host Sports Science on ESPN. And it is definitely something that stuck with me, Sarah, as a young child. I can remember in this basement right here, because I'm at my mom's at the moment in upstate New York, I would watch that segment and be captivated by it. So that's my one more thing. You have anything coming up after quick hits?
I don't know. I'll think about it. Maybe.
Okay. More to come.
Here. Yeah.
An orange banner
We done this
from
one already.
Barkite's Profit that we've already done.
Yes, there we go.
That we've already done. DreDog679 says, PHP and I have a bit of a connection, so I indeed did track him. Oh. Wait a second here. DreDog is noting that he has tracked down. Okay, I'm just going to read it. Hold on. DreDog679 says, PHP and I have a bit of a connection, so I indeed did track him down. However, at his request, I will not disclose who I'm sure in time he will reveal. Did the plot?
I kind of like the mystery.
Did the plot just thicken? No, I do too. I enjoy it. I think he's made his mark inside this show. I think a lot of people appreciate him, including you and I. But this is interesting from Dre, and I will be reaching out to Dre individually to get more on this.
I like the mystery man. I don't even want to find out, to be honest with you.
All right. Well, whatever I find and uncover you, I will not be relaying to you when you're in Switzerland.
It just makes the I don't know, it just adds to the magic of it all.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. Kobe Pruitt chiming in today.
He says, this Kobe spelled with a K. How are the Ravens vulnerable to the Bengals when they are running back a team that missed the playoffs? It's interesting. I always expect the Bengals to get better too. I don't know necessarily that they'll take the division crown away from the Ravens, especially with the Lamar Jackson 10-1 mark against them as a starter. But for some reason, I just keep thinking they got to be better this time.
I would agree.
I don't know.
Somehow, some way, they find different ways to screw up the beginning of their seasons consistently. Douglas H. Brown Sr. says, I appreciate the words of love, PHP. We are all members of a Ravens flock. Yes, to the Voltrons. Appreciate you, Douglas. Another super chat. He's off to a busy Monday. Sir, maybe he gets paid on Monday. I don't know. Everybody else is on Fridays, but
yeah.
D-Wiz is celebrating 1 month of Voltron channel membership. We've pleased to have you on for a month, D-Wiz, and the super chat Sarah comment that he gets because of that membership is attached.
Says the distance or deviation between our best and worst players that play on our squad is definitely smaller than any other squad in the league. Distance or deviation. Can you go back to that? Our best and worst players. Oh, okay. I see what he's saying. Basically, he's saying that the roster's good.
Correct.
Yeah.
I see a player with a little New Zealand coin here. Why he fold when he got caught? Morning, fellas. Why he fold when he got caught? Who got caught? Nick?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, Kobe.
Oh, Kobe, for sure. It's if your memory serves you correctly.
Okay. I got you. Another one from Kobe Pruitt for you.
He says, I apologize on behalf of all Kobes.
Different spelling, though, so we're going to give it to you, Kobe, with a K.
Yes.
O-B-I-E. Kobe Bryant from the now Falcons. The undrafted rookie is C-O-B-E-E for whatever it's worth. Sod Blitz 34, channel member of ours, says, if there is stats you want researched or graphics you want made, if there are stats you want researched or graphics you want made, let me know. I literally do it as a hobby and to troll people on the internet. I kid you not, Sod. Email us. BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com. We'd love to keep you on file.
And send us the stats that you're using to troll. I'd like to see them. Just
BaltimoreRavensVault.
Yeah.
BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com. We'd love to have you on file. Appreciate you, man. All right, everybody. We appreciate everybody for being here. Tila was not happy that I did not mention her name with our concurrent count the first time around. So let me make sure I get back in her good graces right quick. Over 1,800 concurrents, Tila, at the moment. Please like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. We're coming up on 25K. And hit that notification bell. We're glad you're here. Quick hit, Sarah, and an update from Byron. From Brian McFarland, Ravens salary cap analyst, friend of the show, who now, Sarah, being that it's June 1st, the designations are in. It's really June 2nd, excuse me. But with Marcus Williams and Justin Tucker now removed from the Ravens salary cap, and in parentheses, as he notes, with the pending processing of Pierce's retirement, meaning Michael, which should happen soon to create a roster spot for the nose tackle John Jenkins signing, which we'll have a slide on in just a second. The Ravens are now, count it, $18.488 million under the cap. Sarah, what might EDC do? Are they going to bring in another veteran safety at a similar time they did last year? I would think that's a place to start.
Sure. But let's look closely at Brian's graphic to the left. He says the projective usable salary cap space, because right now the Ravens are working under the rule of 51 as are all teams. And they will eventually have to play a practice squad. And then he has an injury replacement fund of $6 million. So really, he's saying the Ravens have about $5 million to work with rather than 18. Okay, that's fair. So what could they do with that $5 million? Knowing that there's a $6 million injury replacement fund that he's already got baked in, which is nice. Yeah, to your point, you can go out and get yourself a veteran safety, which I definitely think they should do. You can, let's see, where else do they have needs here? I don't know if you want another offensive lineman. It's just like you can get into training camp and get a feel for where you feel like you're strong and where you feel like you're weak.
And you're probably going to want to hold on to a certain sum of that for potential training camp injuries.
Right. And
that we don't even know about right now could be of need.
Correct. And I don't know if he has that as part of his, injury replacement front. He has it as preseason and in season. So maybe training camp is separate. I'll also say this though, Bobby, what would be nice about having that $5 million, if you don't just blow it all on who knows what. Sometimes the Ravens can't do in-season trades based off of the salary cap that they have. And so if there's an in-season trade to be had, when is it? When do they do it now? Around week 7-ish, something 6 or 7?
Typically, it's like mid-October.
If you need to take on somebody's remaining salary cap hit for 2025, you now have that slush fund also. So yeah, to me, it's a veteran safety, potential injury losses, and then you got a slush fund for an in-season trade.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way. Now, you mentioned, Brian did, the John Jenkins signing. That has now become official. So Travis Jones, being that Michael Pierce retired last offseason, now has a little bit of, I don't want to say competition, but they have depth at that position now behind Travis. It's a 1-year deal for journeyman, veteran nose tackle John Jenkins. So that just became official earlier today. That's according to the Ravens team account and the official graphic that goes along with it. I did want to throw this in there, Sarah, just because Marlon always shares what's on his mind. We know this on X. That's just the type of personality that he is. And being that Justin Tucker is no longer a part of this organization, I just found it to be interesting. Marlon, and remember, too, that Justin's shouldn't say dismissal. I mean, it was technically, quote unquote, a football decision. But Justin's departure, shall we say, is significant on a number of levels. But from a historic standpoint, he resembled, or he was the last member, the last playing active member of the 2012-2013 Super Bowl team. And so that now there is no longer, in terms of the players, the actual active players, there is now not one member from that 2012 team. So anyway,
right.
Marlon's tweet, I just watched a Victory IG live clip. I'm a miss Tucker low-key. The team meetings won't be the same. So certainly a period of transition, Sarah, and obviously these were two of the longest, Marlon still is, but these were two of the longest tenured players on the team last year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Marlon is never afraid. I mean, we still don't know what's going on with Justin Tucker. The NFL hasn't come back with the results of their investigation. He obviously is asserted time and time again his innocence for the allegations. And so maybe he is innocent, maybe he's not. It just goes to show you, though, like you still become buds with people. You just pointed out how long they've been on the same team, how long they've been working together, their relationship. And sometimes you're like surprised yourself with, you love somebody and you're surprised yourself by allegations, or even if they become true. And so he knows everything that's swirling about Tucker and puts that out there. And it kind of partially makes me like Marlon Humphrey. He's always going to say what he wants to say.
Yeah, me too. And I think it also is a reminder of just the personality that Justin Tucker is as a kicker. The fact that Marlon is essentially inferring here that he had a key role, or he was a personality, or he was a big part of team meetings as a kicker. You're not going to find that, I would think, a lot of other NFL locker rooms, but that's who Justin was, and that's who Justin is in a lot of ways. More quick hits here. You brought this one in, and there's a video attached to it too. And our guy Hezzo's on the tweet, who I finally had a chance to meet, Sarah, on one of my call-ins on the Bobby Baltimore channel. He's a fan of the show. He's a fan of you. He's a great young man. So he's got this, and including Keaton under the not the bench press, but the squat rack.
Squat rack. Yeah, he's a fan of Keaton getting stronger, and so am I. I don't know how much that is. Did he say it was 400 in the tweet?
I mean, listen, this dude's got 400 plus pounds on his back right now.
That's 3.
That's 405 right there.
That's 405. There's 4 times. There we go. I got a little bit loud. So 4 squats of 405.
405.
Feels like he's recovering pretty well.
Look at him. Light work for the young man. Hashtag stay over there. Hashtag I got the list. Hashtag they said I wasn't. Oh, that's a long hashtag. Hashtag they said I wasn't going to be the same. God make no mistakes. That's from Keaton's caption on his Instagram. And you and I can we love the guy any more than we do? Goodness.
I know. Especially after he was on the show. I mean, I did not realize the type of character he was. Like, we were like, Keaton, if you need to go, we felt bad. And he's like, no, I'm here chilling. I mean, he was with us for over an hour on draft night. He just basically wanted to watch it with us.
Everybody kept yelling at me, not you, but in the chat, they're like, why do you keep asking Keaton to leave? I'm like, I don't. I just want to make sure we don't allow him to, he's not overstaying his welcome, but that we don't take advantage of his time. That's all I was trying to do. And he just kept hanging. It was an awesome night. Hopefully you guys were able to catch some of that. What went down at Ripken Field up in Aberdeen?
Let's talk about this for a second. A fun time. So, as we know, Isaiah Likely teamed up with Special Olympics Maryland and invited all of his teammates up for a offense versus defense baseball game. They also had a home run derby over at Lido's Field at Ripken Stadium in Aberdeen. Just so you know some of the stats that went down there, Bobby. Nick Moore, who is a former minor league baseball player. He played 4 seasons and then was drafted by the Red Sox in 2011. Now the Ravens long snapper. I got to tell you, sometimes the long snappers or punters, because I'm thinking of Sam Cook, have crazy skills, just crazy athletic. And snapping or punting is just another thing they can do. But anyway, Nick Moore at the home run derby won that with 6 home runs. Okay. The offense destroyed the defense in the game with an 11-5 victory. Some of the guys that were there supporting Isaiah Likely, Trenton Simpson, Charlie Collard, Tylan Wallace, Katon Mitchell, Tavius Robinson, and some others. But the MVP of the game was not Nick Moore, as many had projected, although he did have a good game. It was one Tylan Wallace, who hit home 2 home runs. And Jonas Schaefer of the Baltimore Banner got this video of it. Here he is stepping up to the plate, looking for the pitch. Pitcher hiding behind those pitching screens. Winds up and boom! Out to left field. Why am I commentating on baseball? You know I don't like baseball. Or at least I don't like
the little play-by-play.
Look at me go. Look at me go. Oh, baseball is one of the most boring sports to watch. But look at him around the bases there to get home. So you had 2 home runs there. What is it about Tylan Wallace just coming up in big moments, whether it's for the Ravens, returning a punt, or taking a reception to the house, or having 2 home runs for his offense?
Let's take another look at this bat on ball.
He's just big play Tylan. That's what he is.
Let's take another look at this bat on ball. What kind of contact does he make? Goodness gracious. I didn't catch that the first time.
Yeah.
He laid the wood down on that one. That a boy, Tylan.
He sure did.
Yeah, he's big play, big play bait. I mean, Tylan's competing for that whatever the equivalent is for him. He's just the guy knows when it's time. Look at Isaiah filming him.
Isaiah's all up in there.
That's awesome.
I do appreciate how much Isaiah Likely was like promoting this and took it seriously. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes players will like team up and do stuff, but they just let the PR staffs or the community staffs or whatever, the support staff kind of market it. But he clearly was all in, going on different shows, at his press conference talking about it. So obviously Special Olympics, Maryland does good things for all those that are competing in the Olympics, the Special Olympics. So good for them. Good for Isaiah Likely.
I got to tell you, I'm biased, but I think he picked the right folks to work with. I've had a chance to get to know a lot of great people at Special Olympics Maryland. It was during my radio days, and I'll never forget participating in the polar plunge in the Chesapeake Bay one January. It was as cold as you could possibly imagine, and we had to fundraise $10,000 in order to participate. And then once we did achieve that, for 24 hours in late, I think it was mid-January. It was right after the divisional round. I can't remember specifically, but it was a Saturday night, and we had to plunge once an hour for 24 hours into the Chesapeake Bay in support of the Special Olympics Maryland. It was just an amazing experience. I met so many awesome people along the way, and they do great work in the Baltimore area. So I kind of love that Isaiah chose them to work with. This, Sarah, is official. The cover of Madden 2026. How could it not be? Come on. Saquon Barkley literally hurdling a defender with seemingly eyes in the back of his head, just crazy intuition, insane, freakish, God-gifted skills that were put on display in game. It literally looked like a video game, Sarah, and now he is one.
Okay, so I'm looking here at your tweet and noticing there is that gold check mark confirming that it is Madden itself and this is official, because I don't know if you noticed, Bobby, but a week or two ago, I got by that Adam Schleffler or whatever the name is. But what's funny, so it said that he was the cover, and it had a cover very similar to this with him doing that backwards jump. And anyway, I got, and it was correct. It was correct. So Adam Schleffler or whatever his name is may have gotten the correct info, but I had to unredo that retweet that I put up.
You know what, partner? It happens to the best of us.
Sure
and I will tell you, just since this is a Baltimore-centric podcast, CBS put together a nice little thread here. So I'll share this with you quickly. They put out, NFL on CBS, that none of their submissions were selected as the official Madden cover. And they came up with 12 of them. Here's Jameis Winston.
Wait, this is CBS? Oh, Jameson. Or not Jameson, Jameis. He
Jameis
was
Winston.
hilarious during that interview. He's good in all of them, but this one was another level.
His Thursday Night Football interview in the snow was absurd. Okay, just absurd. What else do they have here? Oh, I remember this one. I don't remember the player's name, but remember on the Washington Commanders would-be Hail Mary play.
Yes.
This player from Chicago was caught jawing prior to Jaden Daniels' heroics.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, baby. That right there is catching a stray from...
Are there any
NFL
more? Because this is really fun.
That's a pretty darn good one right there. Okay. On to the next one.
Oh, that's right.
Amon-Ra St. Brown doing a headstand for the Detroit Lions in celebration. This is pretty good from NFL on CBS.
Yeah, it is.
And by the way, we're watching this. We're in real time. I have not seen this thread yet.
Oh, this one's hilarious too.
What's up next? This was the. This was hilarious. The commander who jumped the gun early because of the tush push and how dominant it was.
But he did it like 3 times, and
Yeah.
they kept calling him on it. And finally, the refs got on the mic and was like, if number whatever does this again, I think they said that they were just going to award the touchdown, and maybe he was going to get kicked out or something like that. So he didn't do it like the 4th time.
Hysterical.
They just kept inching the ball closer and closer because it's like the penalty is like half the distance to the goal line, And so it's like at some point you don't have a microscope to do it. So they had to warn him. And then, of course, they scored.
Another pretty darn good submission from
Yep.
NFL CBS. That's 4 of 12.
What is
Oh,
this?
Will Levis gets himself in there because, well, let's just be honest. Will Levis is a walking highlight, and I'm not necessarily talking about what he does in
As
terms
the
of
quarterback.
play. In
Yeah.
terms of play, yeah, he does a little bit of everything out there, as you can see, and he is a character. And I think he's about to lose his job, Sarah, to Cam Ward, unfortunately for him. So that is 5 of 12, 6 of 12. I don't remember this one. Do you?
I don't know this one. This is, what is this, Colts Jags? Yeah, I don't think we were keeping up with the Colts Jags.
Not at all. But it's a
to
Colt DB
lying.
laying out.
Looks like-
Laying out. Is that ETN for Jacksonville? I'm not sure, but there's a Jaguar that's seemingly headed for the end zone, and a Colt DB is straight up all out, and that had to have been a face plant. Had to have been.
Oh my gosh, we got to do a Ravens version of this. Keep going.
Don't worry, the Ravens are coming up. That's the only reason why I brought it in, and I don't think anybody will be surprised which Ravens submission gets it. This has to be in there. Of course, AJ Brown for Philadelphia caught reading a book on the sidelines, and everybody was wondering, Sarah, is the drama in Philly going to overcome them? Nope. It actually catapulted them, maybe in a sense, in part, to a Super Bowl title.
But what was he reading? Did we ever find out?
Oh, he talked all about it. I don't have any of that off the top of my head, but he talked all about it.
I'm Googling it because I need to know.
You do
Inner
that.
Excellence.
Okay. How about
Inner
that? How
Excellence by Jim Murphy.
Isn't that amazing how that comes right up? It's like amazing. A duck sighting in the Tampa Bay Carolina game. Of course,
Okay.
the duck deserves a little bit of love. That is.
Remember that cat game with the Ravens? That cat was running all over the field.
I do. And I also remember an amazing Kevin Harlan narration. Was it that one? I think it was a Monday night game when there was either a cat or a bat or some animal. And I want to say it was in a New York stadium. Was it a squirrel? Kevin Harlan had one of the all-time calls. Okay. That's submission number 8. Number 9 is what? Jim Harbaugh. But what's the significance?
I don't know. It looks like Halloweenish. What is going on here?
I don't have this one, but it looks like the Chargers were in Houston. And I didn't follow this one.
I don't know.
So
Okay.
chat's going to have to help us out with that one. But that brings us to number 10.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, when the king was entering the house en route to the house on that Buffalo primetime game
Yes.
with his devilish, freakish, zombie-like look in his eyes to the house.
Could
up close.
you imagine being asked to get in front of this freight train who has lost his mind according to his eyes and his grit and his just gritting his teeth? There is nobody that wanted a touchdown more than Derrick Henry in that moment. No way am I sacrificing my body when I see that face coming along with his 250 pounds behind it. Whew.
Watch your head. Watch your head on the way in. 11 of 12. George Pickens. And
What
I
is he
can't
gonna dunk
remember.
on him?
I can't remember the DB, but he tried to do he essentially tried to violate this guy. Okay.
Dude.
George Pickens doing one of the many antics that probably was a big part, Sarah, of why he is on his way out of Pittsburgh. Gets the nod, 11 of 12. Who did he try to grab from the face mask? And not when I say try, he ripped somebody's face mask and ripped the guy to the ground. I can't remember who they were going up against, but
That to me looks like somebody who's like hanging onto the rim, pulling themselves up and ready to dunk the basketball into the hoop. That's what it looks
Yeah.
like to me.
yes, it does. This looks like a posterized photo here.
Yeah.
Definitely a poster, and it's been made out into a poster. Yes, you're right, Evan. It was the Cowboys corner, and then that was funny because obviously George is now a Cowboy, but that corner whose name escapes me right now ended up leaving. He's not a member of the Cowboys anymore.
Mhm.
Anyway, 12 of 12. This is kind of fun. 12 of 12 has Nate Burleson in Buffalo with a dude that barely has any clothes on and probably sub-degree temperatures. I
Is that a
don't know what
Bills
else the
fan?
significance is other than the fact that Nate looks like Santa Claus, or at least he's dressed like him.
Well, and that dude is dressed in it looks like it's like a pinstripe red and white overalls and no shirt, and he's showing off the belly
There's a lot going
a
on
little
there.
bit there.
Nate's looking like, okay, I'm not sure what's happening here. I'm not sure where his hand has been, but that's what's going on there. Good stuff, right? Kind of entertaining.
That was good.
Highly entertaining. Okay. We've got one more thing to cover, but we still have super chats, patrons. Do we have any more quick hits to discuss?
Yes, one more quick hit. We already know that Bill Belichick absolutely loved Ed Reed. He was on the pivot talking about it even more and how terrible it was to go up against him as an opponent.
Side of Patriots players, the most excited I've ever seen you talk, or excited I've ever seen you be to talk about another player, was Ed Reed.
You're the best free safety that's ever played this game, and I've seen. You're awesome.
Why were you such a huge fan of one of your biggest opponents and competitors?
You know, that guy's so good. He's so good. You know, I knew about him. We drafted a corner who's passed away, Leonard Myers. We drafted him the year before from the University of Miami. And so his rookie year, at the end of his rookie year, like November, December, whatever it was, I said, hey, who's the best player at Miami? You know, got a few guys down there in the draft. Is there anybody that, you think's any good? It was Ed Reed. Best player on the team. I go, well, how good is he? Best player on the team, best player I've ever seen. This guy's a great player. Like, okay. Because I respected Leonard Myers. I mean, he was a pretty smart guy. And I said, okay, it's that good. He goes, yeah, there's nobody even close to him. Nobody even close. All right. So I start watching him. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is blocking punts and returning punts, intercepting passes and tackling. You know, he's kind of a tall, skinny guy. He's not that tall, but he's skinny, but he's powerful and he's explosive. He's a good tackler too. And man, is he fast and got good range. And so I'm like, oh man. Then he goes to Baltimore. You know, we didn't get him, of course. And so now he goes to Baltimore. Now we're playing against him in the AFC. And as a punt rusher, I mean, he was just,
Anyway, he talks about how he doesn't understand why the Ravens stopped using him as a punt returner after a while. But Bobby, everybody needs somebody in their life that loves them as much as Bill Belichick loves Ed Reed. Like every time he talks about him, he's like in a daze. He's in a daze. It's just a complete football love and crush. And even when you saw him interact on the sideline, he would do it there too. Just everybody needs to find somebody that loves them as much as Bill Belichick loves Ed Reed.
It's so strange too to actually hear like Bill enunciate and talk with a volume that is not under his breath and monotone like he did for all those years in press conference settings. Great stuff. Mike M is a channel member, and he said that Nate Thomas, who I believe is one of our loyal subscribers.
Oh, Nate Thomas. Sorry, go ahead.
Nate Thomas said he can code a Voltron counter. What does that mean?
Code a Voltron counter. Counting what? Memberships so that we can see it live? Because you know how we were always trying to like count them up?
Yes.
That'd be kind of cool, to be honest.
Yes, that was from
I was sitting there with my piece of paper, carrying the one, doing this and that, and I'm like, where are we at now?
I think, yes, that's what Mike was referring to from last week.
Okay.
Queon says sports science with Ray Lewis was a good one, and I think that's a good segue into John Brankus' sudden and tragic passing. Sarah, I don't know if this rings a bell for you at all when it comes to sports science, but goodness gracious, this was one of my all-time favorite segments and brings me back to my childhood again in this basement, watching television, developing my love for sports, and being totally fascinated by this guy and his mind, his delivery, and everything he was about. He was the co-creator and host of Sports Science. It was an Emmy award-winning segment on ESPN, and he has died at the age of 54. There are reports out there that he battled, and I mean battled, depression. So much so, this is a statement. We shouldn't even say reports. This is a statement from his personal Twitter account. And it notes, it was with profound sadness that we share the news that John Brankus has passed away. co-founder of Base Productions, founder of Brinks TV, and co-creator and host of the 6-time Emmy Award-winning Sports Science, had been battling depression. John lost his fight with this terrible illness on May 31st of 2025. His heartbroken family and friends request privacy at this time and encourage anyone who is struggling with depression to seek help. Why do I bring it up, Sarah? Well, one, I can already tell by the live chat that this also resonates with some of our audience members. And on top of it, I really want to share this January 2023 clip where he went on Marcellus Wiley's show. And this was, again, January of 2023. It is now June of 2025. Listen to John be so incredibly willing, able, and open to discuss what he was battling at the time and actually what he had overcome at the time. That's what's so incredibly tragic and sad about this.
Yeah.
John Brankus, January of 2023 with Marcellus Wiley. It gives you chills listening to this, knowing now how his life ended.
I'll give you real. We're being real. Never Shut Up is about being purely raw. So the time in my life where I was counted out, where I counted myself out, I was living in Park City, Utah, and I fell into a very deep depression. I had come off of selling my company, selling Sports Science, ESPN, and you're kind of living in Park City, trying to feeling like you're retiring and, oh my God, I made it. And, the isolation that you feel living in a mountain town, the cold weather, injuries, things not going right. I spiraled into a deep, deep depression, and I was flat out suicidal. So much so, I had a noose tied around my neck. I was ready to do it, and my dog, Zeppelin, came to my rescue, literally pulled on my pants, on my jeans, and literally was going crazy, wouldn't leave me alone. And I, in my suicidal funk, was like, what am I doing? I literally picked up my phone, called my mom. I said, there's something wrong with me. I am mentally lost. I then went through a battle. I mean, I'm telling you, a battle to get out of it. I went to 6 different psychologists and psychiatrists, finally found my answer, finally found the way, and never since that day where I found Dr. Sendy, who is actually in Virginia, he led me down the right path. We found a solution, and I have never been depressed a day in my life from that moment forward. And I am so grateful for the angel Dr. Sendy, who came down and really was able to demonstrate to me that depression is not about being sad. It's about the way that we are constructed as humans, having thought loops. And people get caught in thought loops and they can't get out of their own way. And that's why you see people who seem like they're perfectly fine, but inside their head, they're just looping and looping and looping. And they try to quiet those voices. And unfortunately, look, mental health, suicide, it's a real thing. And I counted myself out, and I consider it my greatest blessing and greatest victory that I went to and had to march through the valley of darkness to get where I am today.
Sarah, it's a clip that goes on for multiple more minutes, and I cannot encourage you enough out there. It's circulating online to go listen to that. Go listen to his words. Go listen to his strength, right? From the outside looking in, we have no clue what he's feeling in those moments, but his exterior self comes across as resilient and strong and willing and transparent, and he wants to help others. And so to think that that was in January 2023, and you heard him refer to it in past tense, right? He had overcome it at that point. But unfortunately, it looks like it came back. And man, I wanted to use my one more thing because he exuded just this unbelievable display of strength in that interview. And now it's starting to go viral, deservedly so. And my hope is that, we all can kind of acknowledge that just because folks that are in our business or in any front-facing business where you are behind a microphone come across as happy-go-lucky the way that he does, right? In the symbol of strength, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the way that they're feeling internally. And so if nothing else, call your loved ones today, go watch that segment in full, and rest in peace to John Brankus, a key piece of my childhood and my love for sport.
Bobby, while all of that was really well said, when he talked about his dog, do you remember the listener that emailed us when we first started going live with video? I think it was around that time. We got an email from one of our listeners saying that he was saved from committing suicide. He was saved by his dog. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah. That's like, man, it's just like how much dogs can sometimes love their human family, right? It's just kind of crazy. So yeah, that's really sad. It's really sad. And my heart goes out to his family. I've seen how stuff like this can like tear down parents for decades, that they just felt like, they wanted to do something more. He mentioned his mom there and reached out to her for help, and I got to get out of this thought loop is what he called it. And so just to anybody, that is feeling that way, hold on for another day, and then another day, and then another day if you can. And my prayers and thoughts go out to his family for sure, because I just know that they're heartbroken. So much love to them.
Yeah, you and me both. PHP weighs in on this topic as well, and he writes, maybe this is why I was prompted to post my message earlier. We never know the private struggles behind the public face. That's exactly it. That right there. Keep fighting. I hope we can all make it through valleys to get to our mountain. Asmodeus Richard says, when I was in middle school, I had a similar experience. I learned how to fix it. The biggest thing I learned, practicing mental health never stops. Thank you for sharing, Richard. And Dreams, Sarah, weighs in on this topic as well.
Whew, everybody getting real here. John inspiring people to also be vulnerable. Dreams says, depression is real. 3 attempts since 2023, but I'm still here. Been dealing with it since I was 12, but as an adult, it really has been, it's really been at its strongest. Man, keep strong, Dreams. We love you here. We absolutely love you here.
Yeah. We're glad you're here, man.
No more attempts. No more attempts.
Yep. And everybody, not just the super chats, but the one that's weighing in with, some real and raw, honest thoughts here. So didn't necessarily mean it for it to go in this direction, Sarah, to close off the show, but clearly John has resonated with a lot of us. And I figured it would be worth my one more thing today. Mike M with a message as well. I just want to say you matter. Absolutely, Mike. You do. Everybody does in here. Every single human. No doubt. Did you have anything you wanted to share with us before we jump out of here?
No.
One of those days where that kind of suffices, right?
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Stephen, Fear of the Turtle, and Jason Zaratniak, we appreciate you guys for being part of our Patreon community. Thank you so much for all the support that you give us on a consistent monthly basis. This is your monthly shout out. And you too can become a patron by visiting patreon.com/Ravens Vault podcast. It got heavy there in the end, but goes without saying, we really appreciate you guys. And
I just can't get over the chat right now, Bobby. Like there's just too many people dealing with depression. Holy moly.
Yeah. And an outpouring of support though, for those that are sharing their battles. I see it right now. The comments are endless right now. So it's sad place to end, but also uplifting, because we're all, you and I are here for everybody. And I know everybody in the live chat, that's what I think makes the community so special, that everybody truly cares. And the fact that, Richard and Quion and others are chiming in, sharing their past experiences, I think just shows the level of comfort that they have within the community. So, and how heard they know that they are. We love you guys. Good place to stop.
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll do exactly that. We'll be back with you on Tuesday in under 23 hours from right now for a Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. It goes without saying, lots of love to everybody here in this chat. We thank you for being part of this Monday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. We'll be back with you on Tuesday, if not before. I'm Bobby Trossett. She's Sarah Ellison. And as always, Vaultrons, we appreciate you for spending some time with us here inside the vault. We'll talk to you soon.